Hi, this is Elizabeth Ross with Two Tree Boys Wood again, and this is the second part of my discussion about wood. What I'm trying to do, and I'm probably going to move this over to YouTube once I figure out YouTube, or maybe I can get one of my teenage nieces and nephews to help me figure it out. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just put out some additional information about us. There's a lot of you who have been doing business with us who maybe don't know a lot about us, or we were really honored to be featured in the AAW Profile series in September, but that's just a brief interview. So I want to take that information and expand upon it and really just maybe answer some questions you have or get out some additional information about us. So we're going to talk today about our 3 best-selling woods. I did a practice run of this earlier and it was about 10 minutes, so if it gets too long, click it off and come back and watch it later. I do like to talk, and like I said in the last video, I really like talking with my hands. But I'm a teacher by profession, and so I also love sharing information that I've learned. So, 3 best-selling woods. This is in no particular order. I haven't done analytics for a while, but one of my most popular selling woods is Bradford pear. Now, people who live around here cannot believe that I actually, 1, make money off of Bradford pear, and 2, make a lot of money off of Bradford pear, because where we live, and it may be the case where you live, is considered a nuisance tree. It's beautiful. In the springtime, it has really beautiful white blossoms, but they are stinky. And the other thing that people don't like is the structure of the tree. It has a short trunk and a heavy crown and is prone to splitting. Now, those of you who are really into agriculture or horticulture may know that the Bradford pear is considered invasive. I actually read, and I think it was on the Missouri Department of Agriculture site, that the Bradford pear can cross-pollinate with any other species and will make it a Bradford pear. So it's really considered invasive and a pest, but it makes a lot of wood turners pretty happy. If you haven't worked with Bradford pear before, here's a few things that you should know about why people like it. 1, I've been told by many, many turners that it turns like butter. So easy to turn. Now, if you look at just a piece of Bradford pear, and this is a very tiny hollow form made by Gibson, you'll see that it has a pretty plain grain, right? You're not going to look at a Bradford pear piece and say, oh my goodness, that's the most fabulous piece I've ever seen, but the plain grain is actually what makes it attractive. Hey Robert, I'm just getting ready to show your piece. So Bradford pear is popular for a number of reasons, okay? 1, it's easy to work with, and it accepts piercing and carving very well. This is a Gibson piece. If you look at a lot of his current works, he's doing a lot of piercing, and he uses almost exclusively Bradford pear. Another thing that Bradford pear is really popular is with embellishing, particularly in the basket illusion technique, which has been popularized by Harvey Meyer. Here's an example here that Robert Franklin made. He just made me a little show pen with the Bradford pear and with the basket illusion technique. So you can see the light colors are the actual wood color, and you can't really see the grain for it to compete with the design. Another way that Bradford pear is popular, and I think this was really popularized by Michael Gibson and Cynthia Gibson when they were working together, is with pyrography. This is a piece made by Gagnon with Boston Woodturning, and so you can see the piece is pretty plain, but then he's added this really pretty pyrography or wood burning at the top, and it really just makes the piece pop. So very popular with embellishing, and I mentioned these 2 gentlemen, Michael Gibson and Harvey Meyer. They're professional turners in the Atlanta area. They use it a lot, and they've really they really bring in a lot of business between the two of them, and also people that they refer to work with us. Another popular wood that we sell is ambrosia maple. Now, I sell out of it almost as soon as I get it. Bradford pear, going back to Bradford pear, I actually used last year, most of the year, had a waiting list for it. I've been able to minimize that by sourcing it from other places. Other tree service source it for me. I have a couple of people who do landscaping or work for the city, and they know I use it, and so they'll try to get me it as well. Okay, back to ambrosia maple. So ambrosia maple is not a specific species. It's a type of figure, and it is formed by the ambrosia beetle, which goes into the tree and lays its eggs, its tunnels, it makes tunnels in, its larva eats the wood and things like that. But the beetle brings in a type of fungus into the wood, and the fungus is what causes this color. And then you'll also see that most of the brown areas are closed in by zone lines. All right, so here's a little lesson for you. Be careful with that. If you ever get a chance to see Dr. Sara Robinson in person, go see her. She lectured at a club in my area last year, and I went to see her and just really learned a lot about spalting. She also has this book, Spalted Wood, which is available at a number of different places. I think I bought mine on Amazon. All you could ever want to know about spalted wood in it. I haven't made it very far through the book. I use it as a reference sometime, but really a lot of good information. So one thing I learned from her is where these lines come from. The lines, and I may not get this exactly right. Science is not my best subject, but it's the fungus. The fungus is the tree is trying to contain the fungus, or sometimes there's two fungi, and they're trying to each trying to dominate the other, and one ends up encasing the other one. So the lines would then be a type of spalt, and since this is a type of spalt, and also the coloring is caused by fungi, it actually changes the composition of the wood. And this is the main point that I'm trying to make with this. I might have messed up my explanation a little bit. But the main thing is that it changes the composition of the wood. So this coloring is not going to fade away. There's some other woods that have coloring that does fade, but something that is caused by a fungus does not fade because it's actually altered the composition of the wood. So I usually get 2 or 3 really good ambrosia maples during the year. This piece was made by Harvey Meyer. He does make something besides Basket Illusion, and he made this for me out of, this piece of wood came from a tree from my front yard. Maple is really pretty. Just while we have this piece, you can see some other figure. It has some curl here, which is a ripple. I can actually feel the ripple in the wood. There's some over here. Really beautiful stuff. But like I said, the ambrosia is not a specific species. It's a figure of the wood. You do usually get some insect holes and tunnels. Some turners fill them, some turners leave them the way they are, because it depends on what they're trying to do. All right, so the last popular wood, I'm sure you guys all know what it is flaming box elder. Yay! It seems like turners love or hate flaming box elder. All right, so just in case if you don't know, you probably know, it's this whitish wood with the red flames through it. This ornament was made by Tolly in Texas, and I actually sent him the wood for the bulb, and then he did the finials and icicles with some other things. All right, so there are a lot of theories about how the color comes to be in box elder. And I've gotten in quite a few arguments, and I kind of have stopped discussing it, or I try not to discuss it too much, because as I research, there's even conflicting things. Even if you look at scientific research, you're going to get different ideas. But here's what we do know for sure. We do know for sure that the red is some kind of chemical reaction in the tree. Another tree that produces a chemical color change is tulip poplar. That's how it gets that rainbow coloring. So the red is a chemical reaction, is believed to be from some kind of stress. Now, box elder is frequently infested by a beetle. Not the same beetle here. I've heard people say that. Not true. Not the same. There's a box elder beetle. I forget what its scientific name is. I'll try to look it up. Anyway, so that might be the stress. There seems to be some truth that the soil conditions have something to do with it. I've heard people say they drill into box elders and that causes the stress, although I would not advocating hurting a live tree on purpose. Anyway, the point being that this is caused by a chemical reaction. So it is not changing the composition of the wood like what we saw here in our ambrosia piece. That being said, this color can fade. Okay, you can even see here on the back side where some of my color has faded to a brown. So this is a reason why some turners I come across don't like it, because they don't like that they're going to make something and sell it, and then sometime in the future it's going to look like something else. Most people, I don't really care. They like it, it's beautiful, and they understand that wood changes colors. But that is something to keep in mind. Now, I have a few professionals locally that swear by applying sunscreen, particularly Bulldog sunscreen, which is an all-natural sunscreen, before finish. And then I have also seen some commercially made UV inhibitor finishes. So that's what I would recommend for box elder and keeping it out of direct sunlight. So very popular. Again, you know, when I have it, it usually goes like that. I wish I could have it all the time, but like I discussed in the earlier video, I don't have total control over the stock I get. Now, frequently you will see some spalting, particularly zone lines on box elder pieces. So I have another piece made by a local client, Stephen Walker, and this is an earlier piece of his that I just had to have because I liked the coloring. So you see the the insect tunnels, right, similar to the ambrosia, and then you do see that we do see these zone lines that we did see around the coloring. So the zone lines change the composition of the wood. Those are not going to fade away, but the chemical color within them may change. So some similarities to ambrosia maple, but not exactly the same. Oh, on a side note, box elder is a member of the maple family. Up north, they call it Manitoba maple. It is also called ash maple, and it is very soft. It's softer than my silver maple or red maple. Another thing that's common on box elder, which I think is very pretty, is the fact that it is susceptible to blue stain. So you'll sometimes have the creamy white of the wood, the red flames, and then sometimes you get that blue stain. Blue stain is a fungus. If it gets into the wood, it's not going to come out because it's altering the composition of the wood. So, thanks for joining us. That was just a look at some of my most popular woods: Bradford pear, ambrosia maple, and flaming box elder, and I did tag all of the people whose works I mentioned.